Hi, welcome to the NBA Odds Couples show for Tuesday, March 8th. I'm Peter Loshak. Sitting next to me is Mike Brenner. Mike Brenner, I'm going to start wearing shades in some of our videos. I said before why. It's because I have very good bone structure. I'm a very good, handsome guy, but I have ugly eyes. So this, if I hide my eyes
behind the shade.
Yeah, it's just the way I want to look good in videos. Deb said some people out there were saying that my beard looks good. Some of the female members of the video department were.
But is that going to help your picks?
No, but it's going to help. It's going to make me feel good, and that's what life is all about.
Absolutely. And speaking of picks, before we get into this, let's pan over to this board. All right, because last night I went 1-2. Pete had a rough night at 0-3. I'm 57-42, which is 57%. It's still 15 units up, but I'm not comfortable with that. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm going to push that number into the 60s. I promise you I'm going to get it there. Pete, 27-32 at 45%. I got a feeling he's getting ready to go on a tear and go on a Loshak hot streak, and he's capable of doing it. And with that being said, what's the board looking like tonight, Pete?
Yeah, that number of mine is going to go up because I expect to be 50-50 going forward, and that means that a 45% percentage is likely to go up. So we're going to see that number rise almost certainly. Man, last night though, I'll tell you what, the Clippers pick was that was a good pick. I had them on the full game, the first half and the second half. First half lost, full game, second half covered.
Both covered,
won. So I guess I think we're on the right side. Why didn't we just take the full game as well as the first half?
Probably should have, and I just think we were both looking at that momentum, and I'm not going to make an excuse for my pick, but I know one thing I did learn last night. I'm staying off the Cavaliers when J.R. Smith, that guy is the most inconsistent player. At one point, he was 0 for 9 from the field. I mean, come on. I could chuck one up and get one of those.
Weird stuff going on in the NBA right now. The Lakers, the Lakers beating the Warriors, and the Spurs
never in it last
and the
night.
Cavs getting blasted, interesting situation. And now let's see what we have here. Well, we have both Orlando and the Lakers meeting up. We'll get to that in a second. But the Spurs, Popovich, of course, is not on the bench.
I don't know why.
How much of a factor is that? It's obviously a little bit of a factor. Maybe it's a huge factor. And, they're a massive road favorite now at Minnesota. Both teams are on a back-to-back.
W's that line sitting at right now?
Right now, it's sitting at 10.5.
Woo.
10.5, which I believe it's down a little bit from the overnight. I saw 11 on the overnight. And I guess this game scares me. I mean, you actually had a great sense of the Spurs against Indiana, saying that the game scared you and stay away from it. You have anything to say about the Minnesota game?
Yeah, I do. I'm going with the Spurs on the first half.
Really? Interesting.
Yes.
So last night you were like, I don't want to touch that game. Tonight you're liking the Spurs.
Yes.
Tell us why.
Because I think last night they underperformed and they're questioning themselves in the locker room, and whether you had your head coach on the bench or not, you're the talent that gets on the floor and puts it up night in and night out. It's getting crunch time. I think these guys gather around and say, look, we got to turn it on, and I look for them to do it on the first half at Minnesota, minus 5.5.
Okay. Mike Brenner, I certainly trust you there. Another interesting matchup is Atlanta at Utah right now. The Hawks have covered 5 in a row.
Yeah,
and when they turn it up, that's not going to be a fluke. That's because they do have the talent on the roster.
Look what they did last year. Absolutely.
Utah, as we had been mentioning in other shows, had been struggling. They did finally get a win and cover against the Pelicans, but what do we take from that? Not exactly sure. Although Derek Favors had a monster game.
Yes, he did.
Monster game.
Yes, he did.
And
and you got to remember, Atlanta, you got Paul Millsap going back home where he used to be, so he's going to want to put on a good show. Jeff Teague is really playing good ball right now. So.
I'll tell you what my sense is. My sense is that Atlanta's a side in that one.
Plus
1 or 1.5.
Yeah, I saw it at plus 1.5.
And would you like to make a pick on that, bet on it? What do you think about
It's a part of my 3-team teaser.
Really? All right, well, hit us with that.
Okay, my 3-team teaser is Toronto, which they're minus 12 at Brooklyn. So after the 6-point adjustment, Toronto will be minus 6. I got Atlanta plus 1.5. So after the adjustment, I'm going to have them plus 7.5. And I got the Knicks plus 3. And if you add the adjustment, Knicks plus 9 at Denver, because there's another one. You got Affalo and you got Carmelo Anthony. Used to play together in Denver, went to the playoffs together. They're going to Denver tonight, and you can't tell me they're not going to want to put on a good show.
Well, I could tell you that. I mean, the Knicks are kind of like one of they're like on the brink of throwing in the towel in the season, but still playing. So it's a little bit hard to figure. Although I think if they start going with the youngsters, that's probably going to be good for them.
But it's
at
not
least from
going to be
an
tonight.
ATS perspective.
Of course. But Kurt Rambis specifically said, until the upper brass tells me to start playing the younger guys, I'm going with the veterans because we want to keep winning. So keep winning. I don't know where he got that line, but he said keep winning. But yeah, I like it. Knicks, Atlanta, and Toronto. The 3 of those on the 3-team teaser. That's going to cash the ticket.
Well, I'm kind of in love with putting Atlanta in on a teaser because they might not cover that game, they might not win, but feels like it's going to go down to the wire, going to be a close game.
I think it
you
will
wouldn't
be.
necessarily. What would you say to someone who was thinking about giving Atlanta plus 1.5 as a pick? What would you say to that
I would
person?
probably say I'm not going to tell you not to.
Right.
Yeah. And Utah typically, Pete, they don't blow teams out. They just really don't blow teams out.
But they're only giving 1.5. All right, so we got 2 picks. Do you have anything else?
I have one other play.
Really? No way. All right. Well,
I got three picks today.
Holy crap. All right. Well, I wonder what it involves. It probably involves the Washington-Portland game, right?
Absolutely.
It
and I
absolutely
know
does.
you didn't get in my office because I had my papers with me, but yeah, I got Portland on the first half. His team's coming off of 3 road losses. They're back home. They know they're better than what they showed the last 3 games.
They've been struggling recently.
Been struggling, but at home against Washington, who is now without Bradley Beal again. All right, he's banged up. He's got a pelvis issue. I think Portland turns it on early to let everybody know it wasn't a fluke what we did, and to let themselves know. So first half, I grabbed it at -3, Pete.
Okay. Market wide, that number is it has dropped down to 5. So maybe as far as the full game spread. So
probably get it at -2.5.
Maybe the first half. We will check we'll check after the video. If 2.5 is available, that's what you're getting because we are religious about up-to-date lines and we will check. All right. So review your 3 picks, Mike Brenner, and then I'll decide if I want to give some.
Absolutely. Spurs on the first half -5.5. Portland on the half -3, and that may be 2.5. We will check. And then my 3-team teaser with Toronto, Atlanta, and the New York Knicks. And I like all 3 of them, Pete.
All right.
What do you got for us?
I was thinking about, there is one bet that I made. I bet the under in Orlando Lakers. Now, Orlando's tricky because Orlando, we know that Scott Skiles loves defense.
Yes.
And the Lakers, how did they get it done against the Warriors? They played good defense. They held them down from outside.
And they stuck with it.
Yeah, and they're asking themselves, like, wait a minute, are we a legitimate NBA team right now? They're like this. They're like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that might be a good
And
call.
so maybe they're going to be like, how did we do it? We did it with defense. Let's try to play defense against Orlando.
And then
maybe
with
we'll get
Orlando
another win.
locking down on D, you might get an under. Yeah.
Problem is that Heritage has a lean to the over. I bet it at 212. Heritage has 212.5. WagerWeb has 211.5. I'm not exactly sure what I think about that. The other one, I guess I would be leaning towards Atlanta, but I'm gonna stay off that. And I'm also leaning towards the over in Brooklyn, Toronto. Right now, though, it's 210, and it got bet up. And the first half is also intriguing to me at 104.5. All right, you know what?
I know it's not a huge slate, but there's got to be something in there, a diamond in the rough.
I'll give you Brooklyn, Toronto over 210.
Okay. Brooklyn, Toronto over 210. Anything else besides that one?
Well, what do you think about the Lakers under 212?
Well, what I think doesn't really matter because your total's low.
But I'm asking you for.
I think you might have a legitimate point because of Skiles and defense, and Orlando's been underperforming as of late. So they're going to want to lock down. And was it a fluke with the Lakers? We don't know. So that could be a good pick, but that's your area, my man. That is your area.
I'll stay off that. I'm going to take the over 210 in Brooklyn, Toronto, and I'm also slightly like the over 205.5 in that Denver Knicks game. You have any sense of the likely? I mean,
the reason I like that is because you got 2 ex-Denver players going there. They're going to want to put on a show, so it might turn into a scoring affair. The only thing that worries me about it is Gallinari not being there.
Yeah.
But Kenneth Faried's been playing really good ball, so I don't
all
know,
right,
buddy.
I'll just stick with Brooklyn, Toronto. I'm definitely leaning over 205.5 in the Denver game, though.
Brooklyn, Toronto. And before we close this out, let's pan one more time to this board. Had our viewers yesterday wondering where the board was. Well, it's right here. Again, Brenner 57 and 42 at 57%. Pete's at 27 and 32 for 45%. These numbers are going to move up. Trust us, stick with us. Trust me, just stay with us. So, with that being said, buddy, it's all kinds of crazy around here. We got between March Madness and NBA, and you wearing them shades. I don't know what to think about it.
All right, tune in tomorrow for our coverage of the Wednesday card.
You got it. Great show, Pete.